coming up next, a lady who's going to talk about not only the fact that the state library gives out grants, but also that they are wonderful consultants and they will help you even seek beyond the state resources to find other things. So come on to the table here. There you go. Dawn, thank you.
Right. I am a librarian, so I don't always do very well at projecting. So I will do my best. I like to talk like a librarian. Although public libraries nowadays tend to be very loud. But I am reference librarian at the South Carolina State Library. We are a state agency. Many people get us confused with the University of South Carolina because we're basically surrounded by the university. They're behind us, they're on the side of us, they're in the front of us. They just bought the Rutledge building, which is catty corner to us. So we're just kind of getting buried by USC, but we're not affiliated with them. What is the state library? The South Carolina State Library, we have two primary purposes. The first one is that we serve the public libraries in South Carolina, and we are a grant making agency if you are a public library. So if you're thinking about, well, maybe we can apply to the state library for a grant. Well, if you're not a public library, you won't qualify. However, if you've got a good partnership with your local public library, if there's a program you think that would work well as a partnership, talk to your local public library and have them give us a call. And it's quite possible that we can provide funding for some of their programs. The funding that we have is primarily, it's either federal or state based. There's a lot of funding that comes to the state library that actually goes out as part of a formula to the public libraries, and that's covering salaries, covering operating expenses. But we have a lot of program grant funding that is available for public libraries. So things that and is program based. So maybe you want to um, have a display of materials at a particular library. You want to work on doing some sort of educational program, historical program at the local public library. That's a really good match, a lot of educational value there. And these are all types of things that the state library will consider funding. We do have a nice web. We have an entire department that does nothing but working on grants for public libraries. So we have a lot of people at the library that can be consulted. Is this something that, and by the way, you'll have to have the public library contact us. Because if you're not a public library, it's like, okay, just find a public library and have them give us a call and we'll work on that. Because again, that is actually our legislative purpose, is to serve public libraries. Of course, we are a library, so what do we have in the way of collections? We have South Carolina State Agency documents, and the difference between us and the archives is that we only have what are considered the public-facing documents, the annual reports, the public documents that they are actually intending for consumption of the public, so things like the state park guides. We have those in our collection. So if you're doing like you're doing like the history of education in South Carolina, we've got the Superintendent of Education's reports going back to the 1800s. Great resource, and we're digitizing a lot of those, so you don't always have to come down and fight the students for parking. If you do ever decide you want to visit the state library, try to wait to when USC is not in session or one of their holidays, because otherwise the students will beat you every time to every parking space. Sorry. And which is one reason why a lot of the programs that we do now are virtual. The one single sole benefit, I think, of COVID is that it made people more accepting of a lot of remote programming. And so in person's great, virtual can reach a lot of people. But of course, one of the resources that we have for grants that is even more useful than actual awarding grants is we have a grant research collection at the state library. And it's not just us at the South Carolina State Library. A number of other libraries in South Carolina also have these collections. Some of the main ones, the Charleston County Public Library, Florence County Public Library. There's a list of them on our website on the handout. Oh, I haven't gone forward. In terms of those grant resources for libraries, we got a whole section on our website with all that information. And by the way, how many people here have played the lottery and told themselves I'm good for education? A portion of that lottery funding also goes to public libraries. It's like, okay, not only am I doing it for education, I'm also doing it for public libraries. And there's some other programs that we have as well, but the ones that you'll probably be most interested in terms of grant funding, is our grant research collection. And that actually is a collection of what used to be an awful lot of print resources. So you had to come to the library, sit down, open the books and the directories, and go through them and make lots of notes. Fortunately, now it's all databases. The only caveat to that is that the primary resources that we have, you have to visit the library. They are not remotely accessible. You have the license that we have, and this is true for all the libraries in the state that have access to this database. You have to go to the library to use it. But fortunately, there's other ways. The Foundation Directory Online database, unlike all these other resources that are available on, the state parks, the IMLS, all these government grant resources where you can go to the web pages, they have the online applications, they have all the information you can ever need. Billions of dollars of grant money are available from private foundations. There's over 100,000 private foundations just in the US. And you're like, okay, I'll just go to Google and look. Of those 100,000 foundations, less than 80% do not have websites. Like it's the 21st century. Why don't they have websites? They don't need them. People find them anyway through resources like the state library. And so we've got collections of materials. The number one resource, though, is the databases that we have. We've got several of them. We got one called Grant Watch. We've got one called the Foundation Directory Online. That's the one that's available at most of the libraries throughout the state. It's actually a nationwide database. It's available at libraries. And if you've got a colleague in another state that would also like to consult that database, there are libraries in every single state that have access to that database. And there's actually a link on our website where you can go and find that list of resources. And we also training. If you actually go to the website, you'll see that we've got two webinars coming up, one in November and one in December, on basic proposal writing. So the basics of proposal writing, we got a lot of resources. And I started doing this about 10 years ago. And when I started doing this, if you tried to go to Google and type in proposal writing, you get a lot of scammy websites that say, hey, give me your credit card. Fortunately, that's changed. There's a lot of good stuff out there available. You can also contact us in addition to taking these webinars. You can actually come to the library to use the database. You can make an appointment with me and I can walk you through using the database. We're not going to just throw you to the wolves and let you try to figure out how to use it yourself. The thing about private foundations is that there is billions of grants available, but the information on how to access them is very limited. And for the most part, for these funders, the information that's available to the public comes only from their federal tax returns. Which, by the way, if you are a 501(c)(3) organization, remember your tax returns are public information. If you wonder how someone knows how much your CEO is being paid, that's where they're getting it from, but they're public information. And also, you don't actually have to come to the state library to access that info, to actually talk to me. Um, you can meet with me over Zoom, and which is highly recommended when USC is in session because I guarantee you, you won't find a parking space anywhere near the library. And that's actually something we started during COVID, and it's been so successful. We've continued it. I've actually helped people in other states because a lot of libraries that host these collections don't have that type of one-on-one service. But what I can do is I can help you look through the databases for your particular subject area. You're doing a historical museum. You want to look for funders, private funders that do museums. I can actually show you how to search it in the database, download the information. I can send you the files if we're doing a remote. So it's not like you have to actually be there. But these resources are available, and it's something to remember that it's not just federal grants. There's a lot of private funders out there available. So you got your own fundraising, there's private foundations out there that are available, and the state library and other libraries that have access to these collections can help you find them. And you can just give us a call, and well, best thing to do is there's actually a link on the website where you can send us an email and we can help you find those.